Dak Prescott in the shotgun 5-man rush by the Packers. It's hit! It's hit! He's going the whole way! The Savage for a touchdown! Oh my God! Jerry World is burning to the ground! It's burning! Mike McCarthy! The big slip is waiting at halftime! Oh my God! Oh, give me all the disappointed Cowboys fans. Every single one of them. Oh, look at that. They were going to get Lamb on a slant, and Savage, as kind of a rover spy, says, no, sir. No, sir. I like the end zone. I believe I will reside there with the football.
The unhinged ramblings of a man who carries the G. Aaron Nagler of Cheesehead TV joins us. Our conversation with Nags, presented by Miller Lite, Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin. There is a difference, and Rogers Behavioral Health. Good afternoon, Nags. Congratulations. That was chef's kiss.
Good afternoon. I got to start remembering that this stuff is recorded. Like, I'm just sitting there, like, reacting to the game as if I'm all by myself, and I forget, people are watching.
Which is hilarious, and I wonder if Roger Goodell is going to get wind of this, because any use of the images or accounts of this game without the express
strictly prohibited.
Strictly prohibited, but it's strictly awesome. Nags, where do we begin after a game like that? Just thorough and utter domination. It was so sweet. It was so validating. These last couple of weeks, when the Packers have basically been in win or go home mode, have been like the playoffs. It's been an incredible ride.
I mean, you got to start with Matt LaFleur in my eyes. I mean, the way that this team has rebounded from what appeared to be, hey, they're figuring it out. Oh, wait, no, they haven't. And it got real dicey after that Buccaneers game. But the way they have, really just stuck with their plans as far as not making rash decisions, not overreacting, just doing enough to right the ship and keep improving week by week. It starts with the head coach, and it starts with him setting the tone. The fact that this team was 2-5 to start the season and now sits 2 games away from the Super Bowl, that's a testament to LaFleur's coaching job.
Well, it's mind-boggling. And you know what I love the most about the victory and watching all the post-game celebration, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're always excited about a big win, correct?
Right. Yep.
But there was for a different level of joy with this win, with LaFleur and with the players. And am I wrong, or did you feel there's something felt different about it? How excited they were about the win?
I get it, man. The vibe around the team is exemplary, right? I mean, that kind of post-game video with LaFleur and his players in the locker room, you can tell they are extremely excited to be playing for each other and with each other. And there's a real selfless vibe all around the locker room, as far as no one cares who the 100-yard receiver is this week. No one cares who's getting the calls on defense to get after the quarterback. They're all playing for and with each other rather than kind of as a fractious group of individuals. It is noticeable. There's zero doubt about it.
Well, you had the footage of Jaden Reed saying to Aaron Jones, man,
yep,
I love being out there with you. I want to block for you.
Yep. You're the reason I go and play as hard as I do.
Yes.
Yep, 1,000%.
And that is pretty sweet. So, Nags, you mentioned LaFleur almost seems like that home loss against the Vikings was one inflection point, and then another after Pittsburgh. You mentioned Tampa Bay, like New York. They've had a few of those where they had to kind of dig deep. But when do you think the tide turned? When did LaFleur say enough of this? Like, didn't they strip down during the mini bye? Right?
They did. I think, the Vikings game, clearly, I mean, statistically, you just point to that kind of the stretch after that game. They have been on a tear offensively for certain. But I think the Tampa Bay game and the kind of fallout from that, and you remember the intense kind of pressure from the outside of the building to dismiss the defensive coordinator. And Matt said, nope, we're not going to overreact. He said he was going to get more involved. We'll probably never know how much more involved he's been, but the approach absolutely changed that next week against the Panthers on defense. Now, it hasn't been completely smooth sailing, but they have been much more effective on that side of the ball. And again, this goes back to my point. You got to give Matt LaFleur credit for the job he has done as a head coach. I've seen some rumblings, always a good play caller, a good, offensive play designer, but he's not a real great head coach. I think this year absolutely should put most of that chatter to bed.
So now there are some telling us, Nags, including Matt in Minneapolis, who said the second half defense sucked, 27-7 starting the half, immediately let them score. A team shouldn't need to score 40 or more to win.
No, they shouldn't, but there's a lot of context that Matt is leaving out here. I mean, it is 48-16 with 10 minutes left in the game. And after that, yes, Matt LaFleur pulled a bunch of starters and things unraveled quickly. It started to look like a preseason game, and then he reinserted the starters and they basically shut them down. Like,
that
I
happens in
understand
the NBA on a nightly basis. By
exactly. I mean, I don't like anything that happened after it was 48-16 with 10 minutes left in the game. I got little to be upset about. I mean, the game was essentially over at that point.
Agreed. And the fact that the Packers put up the points that they did, Joe Barry had a hand in at least 14 of those.
100%. I mean, between Jair's initial interception, which set up a touchdown, and the fantastic show of cover 2, drop into cover 3 robber with Darnell Savage, the break on the ball, I mean, is absolutely exquisite. Joe Barry has a hand in that as well.
By the way, did we underestimate Darnell Savage's value to the operation?
I tell you what,
leadership back there.
I certainly did prior to his injury. When he was out, the defense was really, I'm not going to say lost, but on the back end especially, they were certainly missing not only his presence and, as you're saying, his leadership, but man, when he plays down near the line of scrimmage, he is a different animal. And that has certainly shown up over the course of the last month or so.
So, Nags, where did you see the game changing to Green Bay's favor? Because I've got a very distinct point.
Let's see if we line up here. I think when they decided after they won the toss to take the football and drive the way they did for 8 minutes, ending in a touchdown, LaFleur said it today, in his presser. Like, the idea was this is a team that plays with a lead at home and has scored a ton of points and suffocated their opponents in that kind of manner, right? To kind of flip the script on them. And also the way they stuck with the run, even though sometimes they were getting 1-2 yards a carry, they stuck with it. And it really gave Dan Quinn fits, not knowing, okay, is this going to be Aaron Jones? Is this going to be play action? They kept them off balance all day long. And it all started with that first drive.
Well, mine was on the first drive too, and it looked like it was going to be just a nightmare. And I think it was the third play of the game when the Packers got the illegal contact call.
Yep.
And then
what would have been the Dallas Cowboys' only sack on the night, because that sack got wiped away.
And probably led to a 3-and-out, and things would have changed, but it didn't. It led to the Romeo Doubs big catch. Mm-hmm. That's when I saw that, I go, God, they don't get that call. It could be a totally different game.
I mean, it could be, but you never know. I mean, especially that early, as far as, being able to overcome stuff. We've seen them start with a 3-and-out before and then go on and score 30 points. So I think just setting the tone, the way they got on the front foot, much the same way they did against both the Lions and the Chiefs, it just set them up for success all night.
So we're talking with Aaron Nagler, Cheesehead TV, a Monday and Friday guest on the Drew and KB program, usually at about 3:30. So Nags, if we underrated Darnell Savage's impact and his return has solidified things and helped them in the back end. We got a message from Craig in the 262. Did Watson play much? Only saw one catch. Yeah, he had one catch for 9 yards.
Yep.
But he was dragging guys back and leaving the middle of the field open for Romeo Doubs for some huge gainers and 150 yards of receptions.
100%. And you saw that on a couple of occasions as far as coverage rolling to him. I mean, can you blame Dan Quinn after Watson went off the way he did last year in his coming out party at Lambeau Field? I mean, I understand Dan Quinn being like, okay, wherever this kid goes, I want a safety over the top. I want us kind of rallying to Watson. But to your point, that left a lot of grass or turf available for usually Romeo Doubs, but all of the guys to work. Watson's presence was definitely felt, but you're right. He was not targeted a whole lot.
And Jaden Reed didn't get a single catch.
Not a catch. I mean, they went to him a few times. Love on the slant was a little behind him. And then there was one where there was a holding penalty that wouldn't have counted anyway, that he missed him outside. But man, when your most explosive guy so far this season is held like completely without a catch, really contributing in any meaningful way, and you score 48 points, that just points to how much you can do no matter who they try to take away.
I like the ensemble approach where it can be anybody. Nags, the other thing to me that stood out, and it's unsung, well, we'll get to the defense in a second, but on offense, that 12 personnel, the way that Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave and even Benson blocked was vicious.
Yes.
Watching some of those cutbacks on some of those design runs where they had those guys chipping or just going after Micah Parsons on a regular basis, it made him a non-factor.
I mean, this is 2 years in a row where Parsons has done little to nothing against the Packers offense. He came close a couple times to Jordan Love, but Jordan did a very good job of getting the ball out of his hands. But to your point, both tight ends were involved in this regard. And the whole kind of operation up front when it came to pass pro, whether it was the tight ends, the running backs, anybody involved with keeping Jordan Love clean, Parsons, I'm not going to say he was a non-factor because clearly you're concerned about where he is on every play, but he certainly didn't wreck the game. He certainly didn't take anything over. We've seen him completely destroy offenses in that building, especially all year long. And this is 2 years in a row where Matt LaFleur and his offensive staff clearly had a plan to neutralize him, and that's pretty much what they did.
Okay, so LaFleur's had some good games against the Cowboys and Coach Mack and Dan Quinn.
Oh, boy.
What about Shanahan?
Yeah, here
Shanahan's
we go.
had their number.
This is the final boss, right? I mean,
Yep.
There's no doubt. I'm sure most Packers fans are not looking forward to this matchup. I understand it. The 49ers are really good. You know, there's no two ways about it. And Shanahan has been pretty outstanding against the Packers overall. But, you know, hey, this is an offense that since that Vikings game that you mentioned, the one in Lambeau, since that time, they are a very different kind of unit and creature of habit. And the way they have utilized pretty much everybody across the board, skill position wise, it's a different animal as far as what the 49ers have faced in the past with Aaron Rodgers under center. There is nobody who is off limits. There is no route concept, route combination. There's nothing that Jordan Love won't look for and pull the trigger anywhere across the field. And that's the other thing. He can make every throw. I know earlier in the year, some Packers fans were worried about some of the deep stuff, and the interceptions certainly were concerning, but he's cleaned almost all of that up. And he's shown he can hit any throw he wants to, whether he's in rhythm or off platform or outside the pocket. I like their chances against that defense. I think, you know, the flip side, of course, is Joe Barry's defense against Shanahan's offense. That's where I think things get a little tricky.
Okay, but don't you think that the Packers have the better quarterback in this matchup?
I absolutely do. I don't think there's any question in that regard.
So, do the Packers win this game with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback against the Cowboys?
I'll tell you what, with this complement of weapons, if they have the same kind of approach they did against the Cowboys as far as utilizing
No, I mean, do they beat the Cowboys with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback?
Probably. I mean, they did it last year, right? I mean, it's a different environment, different place. I mean, I would think maybe, probably.
Skilled position group.
But, yeah, I don't know. It's a good question.
It's fun to fight about, isn't it?
So what if, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if?
Well, that's what we do.
That's what we do. Yeah.
You know, it's nothing but what ifs.
I mean, I think, I don't know, man. I suspect, yeah, probably. I mean, I know we were all frustrated with Rodgers at the end of his tenure, but I still think with these weapons, I mean, this is a very different cast of characters they're throwing to this year than he was throwing to last year. With this kind of group of wide receivers and tight ends, yeah, I think there's a good chance.
All right, the Packers offense not going to be an issue. We're pretty confident on that side. What about Joe Barry? A lot of people wondering if he saved his job again, put the paddles to it late in the season with a surge. Nags, if you had to guess right now, has Joe Barry done enough? Does he need another win on Sunday?
I've been saying they need to win the Super Bowl for him to return, but I tell you what, if they put up another performance like they did against the Cowboys, yeah, I think he's done it. I mean, no two ways about it, especially considering how effective Shanahan has been, not only against the Packers, but against pretty much every defense outside of the Ravens. If he does that again, good chance he's back.
That front seven was pretty good yesterday. Kenny Clark and et al. And
they were, but like, shout out to the secondary, because there were a number, I mean, at least 3 that I counted that were you would have considered coverage sacks, you know, where they were blocked up pretty well initially, but it just looked like Prescott had no answers as far as finding guys downfield, and that allowed the Packers on second effort to get after the quarterback.
Yep. Good stuff as always. Nags, thank you for joining us.
Thanks,
Carry
Nags.
the G. We'll talk to you on Friday.
Thanks a lot, guys. Talk to you Friday. Go Pack.
All right. Aaron